What's up, everybody? It's Priyon Joni. Today, I got a special treat for you. I'm going to be showing you guys the Pioneer DJ DJM-V10 6-channel premium professional mixer. But first, a word from our sponsor, Direct Music Service. DMS is an online database for working DJs and mix artists. It's the one-stop shop where you can get your music from for your gigs. It's a searchable, organized database with thousands of edits, remixes, and different versions of your favorite tracks from many different genres. What's also awesome about Direct Music Service, if you're always on the road just like me, they have this awesome mobile app so that you can search your favorite tunes, put them on a wish list, and they'll be ready for you on your Dropbox folder when you get home. You can now save some money and get a discount using one of these two coupon codes. Use the code PJMonthly and get 30% off your first month off any monthly subscription. Use the coupon code PJYearly and get 10% off your entire first year of any yearly subscription. Go to directmusicservice.com today to sign up. So Zounds loaned this to me to demo and to show you guys. The only time I ever got to spend time with it prior to was during NAMM, when we actually announced and released it. And it stirred up a lot of conversation from DJs from all over. And the number one question everyone asks is, why do you need 6 channels? So today we're going to explore a little bit of that. The DJM-V10 is not a replacement to the industry standard DJM-900 Nexus 2. It's tailor-made for a very specific type of artist. If you've ever watched modern techno and underground house DJs, a lot of them aren't really playing just songs to songs anymore. A way a lot of them mix is mixing elements together, which is maybe play a kick drum here, play the tops here, have a bass line going, and you still need more room for your next song that you're going to mix in with separated elements. So underground techno and house DJs and producers, or maybe DJ/musicians, mix artists, basically for the folks who want more specific controls of separate parameters and more channels to bring in more elements. So what I think is the most important feature of the V10, and this is just my opinion, and that's one you actually can't see on paper, and you would have to actually experience it connected to a large sound system, and that would be the premium quality sound card that's inside here. It has 64-bit dithering, 32-bit digital to analog and analog to digital converters, with a low jitter circuit and a very low noise floor for a really good signal-to-noise ratio. So what does that mean exactly? Well, if you connect this to a large, high-quality sound system, that means you may start hearing elements that you never noticed before because they don't get lost in muddy information. It would be similar to a studio-quality sound interface on good speakers. In a small sound system or a home setup, it's not really going to be noticeable. Where it shines is on a big system where everything is louder. When the mixer doesn't have any signal on it, you'll notice it's a lot quieter than other mixers. Digital distortions are less prevalent in loud environments. And to be the person to actually notice the difference, you would have to be the person keen to using different types of mixers from analog to digital. But it's really pushed the envelope with the type of sound card that's put in there and the position that it's put in there so that it's well shielded from any interference. Now, just going through the rear of the mixer, there's 3 sends and returns. You could do up to 3 loops of effects externally. It has your standard line and phono RCA inputs on each one of the channels. It has 6 digital inputs if you have a digital output on your digital deck, like a CDJ. And in addition to the RCA master output, the XLR master output, the booth output, and the record output, it even has what's called an AES/EBU output. It's the XLR equivalent of a digital output. So if you're on a super high-end festival stage and you want to minimize any interference, including ones you could get with XLR, because there is a little bit of interference that happens with an XLR line. You can run completely digital with no digital to analog conversion until it gets to the mix desk of front of house. So you could literally have a setup where the CDJs are connected digitally. That means no digital to analog, then back to analog to digital conversion. It's a straight digital signal that goes all the way to front of house. It's the most accurate way to get the signal across. Now going along on the top, because there are so many selectable inputs, it has a rotary input selector, and we'll talk about each type a little later on when we pass them. But it has two USB or MIDI ports right up here, and that means you can use two computers. It works with Rekordbox, of course, and it also now works with Serato DJ Pro. On this side, we have a multi in and out. This is where you can connect your iPad if you have an EFX 1000 app, or you could use the DJM Rec to record, or use an effects app to have another external device for effects. This whole section controls that, very similar to the beat effects. Now, going down the channels, we have our gain, and we have this new little knob called Comp. It is a compressor. And it's a really amazing feature because say you have an older track from the 1980s that's not as brick compressed as modern music. You can turn up the compressor, it's just one knob, and you can basically add more volume without peaking because it's compressing the track, bringing the quieter parts louder. So let me just show you what that sounds like. Crank it all the way up. Let's try this track. And the way it works, it's a very intelligent compressor. If you have a track with high dynamic range, which is fairly quiet, it will add a lot of compression. And if you have a track that's dubstep bricked and it's already really compressed, it doesn't really do too much compression. And the way it seems to behave to me is that it's a smart algorithm that determines whether the track is already compressed or not compressed. Almost like having two attacks and two releases that decide when the other one is gonna hit. This right here is my favorite feature of all, because say if I have my Ableton output in one of the tracks, I can already give it some compression so it doesn't sound so quiet compared to all the other tracks that are already mastered that I'm playing. It's also great for beat machines and drum machines because it adds a layer of gluing the dynamics together so that it sounds more even. Now you'll notice this is not your standard 3-band EQ. This is a 4-band EQ, which is popular on many techno-oriented mixers. The high and the low go down to a full kill, while the high mid and the low mid only do a -26 drop. Now, the first time I was using this during my live stream, it's a little bit something that you have to get used to because it doesn't behave similarly to a 3-band EQ. And that's because the high has a greater frequency band than what you're used to, and the low has a lower frequency band than what you're used to. When you cut the lows, it's just like subharmonics, but you still have bass. When you're layering a drum loop over another track, you can just cut just the subharmonics of that track so it doesn't conflict with each other. And in practical terms, what that means, it'll kill the rumble, but it won't kill all the low end. You'll still hear the bass line, you just won't hear it rumble. In my specific setup, I love using the 4-band EQ with my guitar. I like having the lows pretty low so that my guitar playing doesn't rumble. And I like to sometimes scoop the mids and bring the high all the way out for a really metal sound. Or if I want the lead to be out there but not too crunchy, I lower the high and then bring the mids out or keep the mids neutral. I can get so many guitar tones just manipulating the 4-band EQ. Now, next to the EQ section, we have what's called the Isolator. And the Isolator is very similar to the 3-band EQ that you'll find on the DJM-900 Nexus 2 and many standard DJ gear. The thing about the Isolator is that it affects specifically the master. And there's two benefits to this. Number one, you can control your EQ coming out of your entire system. So let's say a room is too bass heavy, you can just lower the global EQ of the master out. Secondly, the other benefit to the Isolator is the fact that you can do EQ effects that affect the entire mix. A lot of times people come across sound systems that may seem too bassy or not bassy enough, and then they start using their channel EQs to boost or cut. And this helps you mitigate the need to do that. Now, it doesn't have the standard color effects that you would see on many 4-channel DJM mixers. Instead, it has a separate filter section and a separate send section for the master mix, which is essentially your color effects plus more. We'll talk about that in a bit. The EQ, instead of a single color effects knob that starts at 12 o'clock, it's a full rotation that goes from 7 to 5, and you can only do one type of filter at a time. So you can do low pass or high pass. So let's show you that. The reason for this is because a lot of times the color effects on a DJM-900 Nexus 2 is it's just too fast to go high pass and then go low pass. It's not a long gradual knob. And this gives you more distance if you want to do a slow pass of the filter. Now over here we have our beat effects assigned. Classically on the DJM-900 Nexus 2, the channel assignment of the beat effects would be a knob that you would switch here. It'd be similar to this right here. Instead, you have a light up toggle that's right at the channel so you know which one is which. On the DJM-900 Nexus 2, there would be a light there. Here, the light is the button to select the channel. Now, here's one thing that you will notice if you love using the DJM-900 beat effects. You can't combine multiple channels. And the reason why I bring that up is because on the classic beat effects selector, channel selector, there is a section for crossfader A or crossfader B. So if you were to take two of the channels and put them on crossfader A and the other two channels on crossfader B, you could actually have multi-channel effects groups. You can't do that on the V10. Now this section, it all says send, and it's controlled by the master mix section that's over here. It's very similar to the color effects, but it's a lot more control for specific things. So let me show you. On the 900 Nexus 2, there's an effect called dub echo. Over here, to engage the dub echo, you want to press dub echo so it's blinking. Turn on master mix. Make sure master mix level is at 12 o'clock. And you can turn up the send. Now the difference with using this effect is that you have more parameter controls to how the effect sounds like the size of the feedback, the timing, even the tone. And it's not just the dub echo, you can do this with short delay. Reverb. Make it sound real big, real small. And there's two other buttons. One button is EXT1, which is external 1, and the other is external 2. This over here allows you to use the master mix to send and return from an external effects machine. So if you had a distortion pedal or a delay pedal, or you had like an EFX 1000 or an RMX 1000 effects machines, you can send it and have it return to the master mix knob, or you can have it return to one of the other channels. Now let's talk about that for a second. This is a 6-channel mixer. What's that big question? Why do I need 6 channels? Is it for using 6 CDJs? The answer is it's for extra options. The 6-channel architecture of this mixer is even useful if you're only playing on 2 decks. And let me show you why that is. Say I only have 2 CDJs connected. I have 2 and 3 and nothing else on the other channels. I want to use the reverb, but I want to re-EQ the reverb. So I'm going to turn master mix level down, and I'm going to take channel 6 and select built-in. And now, instead of coming out of the master mix level knob, the reverb, and only the reverb, is coming out of one of the channels. Now, what's the advantage of coming out of the channels? Well, now I can take the reverb and filter it, EQ it, or I can even apply a beat effects to channel 6. So let's try that now. Shout out to Matt Davis from Pioneer DJ. He's one of the other demonstrators who taught me that you can do that. And if you have multiple external effects with just 2 CDJs, you can quickly fill up all the other channels with your effects returns. Now let's talk about the beat effects section. So it still has your same low, mid, high controls and very similar beat effects all the way around. And the difference is the fact that we got button selectable beat effects assignments over here on this section, but now there is a touch screen to control the beat effects. Before there used to be this touchpad, but now it's a full LCD touchscreen. What's cool about the system on this touchscreen is the fact that you can actually save specific parameters or settings of your beat effects and be able to load them later on. So if I had a 1/4 echo delay with the low shutoff, I can actually save that. And same goes for all the other effects. Now, there's also other controls here, including quantizing the effect when you have the Pro DJ link and you want the BPM and the timing of the effect to be synced with the playing track. And it also has your fader curve adjustment. This took me a while to find because usually I'm used to having a switch there. You can change your channel fader curve. I usually keep that at neutral. And the crossfader curve at sharp for scratching. And if you go into the settings, you can actually control all the different parameters of separate sections of the mixer. For example, the low cut. You can do a low rumble cut for the 2 microphones. I love DJ gear that has a low cut because a lot of feedback can just come from low rumble feedback. And it's great to have that high pass filter on 80 hertz or 100 hertz that help clean that up a little bit. You can control your talk over ducking. You can switch your MIDI channels. Your brightness for the screen is over here as well. And here are your parameters for changing and saving different effect settings. So one thing you'll notice about this mixer, it's not as blinky or vibrant as the DJM-900 Nexus 2, which has a lot of greens, yellows, and reds. It has a more minimalistic look to it. And that's because the environment that this mixer would be living in, a lot of those artists don't really want it to be overly blinky or overly vibrant. It's just the right amount of luminance for the type of environment it's going to be in. So you see a lot more reds, oranges, and dim whites. Like when you look at decibel meter, it's orange until it gets to 0 dB. And say I crank this thing, it's white until it hits the red when it starts clipping. Now let's talk about the faders. These faders are made for mixing, and they are properly balanced between being really rigid, being smooth, and having just the right amount of resistance where you can go from quick cuts to real slow, gradual fades. It's not so smooth where you can scratch on it. Well, maybe a little bit, but it doesn't have the curve for that. But what you'll notice right away if you're used to a DJM-900 Nexus 2 is that it's a very solid fader with a very mute stop to it, because the stopper sounds like it's rubber. But whatever it is, it doesn't have a high-pitch click. It's very solid, like left and right movement. It stays in place. And the finish on the fader caps is a smooth matte finish, so it doesn't feel glossy where it tends to stick to your hand when you're getting clammy from playing, because everybody sweats when they play. Now the crossfader, is a Magvel fader. And you might be thinking like, I don't ever see house DJs and techno DJs really be using the crossfader at all. And it's here because this mixer is a big mixer and it's going to be in a lot of permanent installations. And because of that, it has to also be versatile for other DJs. So the crossfader is here. It's a Magvel fader. It's not the Magvel Fader Pro that you would find on an S9, but it's a very smooth fader. Doesn't have a loud high-pitched click. It has a thicker fader cap on it, very similar to an S9. And it also has the quality of not being so loose when you try to move it up and down. So let's try it real quick. Now, it doesn't have the tension control on it, and you do have to be careful because sometimes when you leave it to off, it might bounce and turn on your channel again. Now, one of the cool things about this mixer is that the booth output has its own 2-band EQ. This is something a lot of DJs have actually asked for because sometimes you might be satisfied with the subwoofers that's inside an installation, a club or a festival stage, but you don't want to clip the monitor speakers, but you want to turn it up so you can always lower the bass. And when you really think about it, both the master and the booth output have its own EQ control. And what this mixer also has is that there are 2 sets of headphone cueing systems on it, and each one has a 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch jack. The other one is right here in the front. The way they're controlled is that the big Q button on each channel is this headphone section, and the smaller one is the secondary headphone section, and that's controlled over here. The reason for this is because when you have a partnered performance with 2 DJs, it's a lot more convenient to just have 2 of them on this side and the other 2 guys on this side, and they're controlling their own side with independent queuing controls. So one guy could be listening to one of his decks and the other guy could be queuing up another deck coming up. And this is something you've seen before, and that's the DJM Tour 1. And that's basically a 900 Nexus 2, but built for the major festival stages. This is a feature that was borrowed from there. All right, so that is the DJM-V10 6-channel mixer from Pioneer DJ. I'll leave product links down in the pinned comment below. If you have any questions, comments, or anything to add, please leave them in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts, answer any questions, or learn anything new that I haven't covered here in this video today. I'm going to be doing more demos of the V10 in the next couple weeks because I would love to spend a little bit more time with this mixer because I love this mixer. So if you like this video, please smash that like button. And if it's your first time here and you like this video, please click that subscribe button and don't forget to click that little bell icon so you get a notification the next time I upload a video. Don't forget to add me on Instagram to get exclusive content that I don't cover here on YouTube, or to see sneak peeks of my upcoming videos. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.